My fiancée texted, "I'm not marrying a broke man. Either upgrade or I'm gone." I replied, "Copy that." Then I upgraded myself by leaving her. 60 hours later, her parents were desperate to reopen negotiations. I, 30 male, was in a meeting, the kind where you mentally draft your grocery list while nodding intently when my phone buzzed. It was my fiancée, Isabel. I smiled, expecting a question about dinner or a picture of a ridiculously priced wedding cake. Instead, I got a memo. "Sitting here looking at the budget for the venue. It's not working. The life we want, the wedding you promised, it's not adding up. I'm not marrying a broke man. Either upgrade or I'm gone." I stared at the screen. My thumb hovered over the keyboard. It wasn't a cry for help. It wasn't an invitation to a conversation. It was a corporate directive. An ultimatum wrapped in the cold, hard cellophane of transactionalism. Something inside me didn't shatter. It clicked, like a gear shifting into place. The fuzzy warmth I'd mistaken for love evaporated, leaving behind a hard, crystalline clarity. All the little things, the subtle pressures, suddenly snapped into focus. Her parents, Marcus and Eleanor, referring to our future as a portfolio. Her brother, Julian, asking about my 5-year plan with the intensity of a venture capitalist interrogating a startup founder. Isabel's casual insistence on designer essentials while I handled the bulk of our rent and bills. I wasn't a partner. I was an investment. And my stock was underperforming. My fingers, moving with a calmness that felt foreign, typed a reply. "Me, copy that." Then I put my phone on silent, slid it into my pocket, and went back to pretending to care about third-quarter projections. The rest of the workday passed in a blur of surreal focus. I wasn't hysterical. I wasn't even visibly angry. I was a project manager who had just been handed a critical system failure. And my only job was to manage the fallout. That evening, I didn't go home to the apartment Isabel and I shared. An apartment, I should note, where my name was the only one on the lease. Instead, I drove to a cheap, clean motel, the kind with scratchy towels and questionable art. I sat on the edge of the stiff bed and began my own upgrade. Step 1, the digital separation. I logged into our shared banking account. It was intended for wedding expenses, but lately, her withdrawals for deposits on things I'd never seen had been getting bolder. I transferred exactly 50% of the remaining balance to my personal account and closed the joint access. I changed the passwords on every streaming service, our Amazon account, everything. It was a digital divorce, executed in under 15 minutes. Step 2, the physical separation. I called a 24-hour moving service and booked them for 7 a.m. the next morning. Then I emailed the building management of my apartment. I informed them that my fiancé had moved out and I would be changing the locks the following day, as per my right in the lease agreement. I attached a screenshot of her text. No commentary. Just the words, either upgrade or I'm gone. It felt efficient. Step 3, the emotional audit. This was the hardest part. I sat in that sterile motel room and let the silence wash over me. The pain was there, a low, dull ache behind my ribs. But it wasn't the pain of heartbreak. It was the sting of betrayal. The humiliation of realizing I had been so thoroughly misread, so completely undervalued. They didn't see me. They saw a line on a balance sheet. Fine. I would act accordingly. The next morning, the movers and I were in and out of the apartment in 2 hours. I took my clothes, my books, my grandfather's antique desk, and the television. I left her the furniture we'd bought together, the mountain of clothes she adored, and the state-of-the-art coffee machine I'd gotten her for her birthday. A gesture of goodwill. Or maybe I just didn't want to be reminded of the 1,000 mornings I'd made her coffee while she scrolled through Instagram. By noon, my things were in a storage unit, and I was checked into an extended stay hotel. The phone started ringing around 3 p.m., Isabel. I ignored it. Then came the texts. "Where are you? My key isn't working." "Leo, this isn't funny. Did you change the Netflix password?" Seriously? I didn't respond. I was busy opening a new bank account. The 60-hour mark hit on a Sunday evening. My phone rang. It was an unknown number. I let it go to voicemail. A minute later, a text popped up. It was from her mother, Eleanor. "Eleanor, Leo, this has gone on long enough. Your little fit of pique has been noted. Marcus and I are prepared to mediate. Let's reopen negotiations." Reopen negotiations. My thumbs were itching to type something scathing. something dripping with the fury I was methodically suppressing. Instead, I took a deep breath, channeled my inner project manager, and replied, there is nothing to negotiate. The partnership has been dissolved. Regards. 5 minutes later, her father Marcus called. This time I answered. Leo, he said, his voice a low growl of condescending authority. You're going to stop this nonsense right now. You've made your point. Now you're going to come over, apologize to Isabel for this childish display, and we can all move past it. I leaned back against the hotel headboard. There seems to be a misunderstanding, Marcus. I'm not displaying anything. I'm acting on my former fiancée's written directive. She terminated our agreement. I accepted. There was a sputtering on the other end. That was a figure of speech. A woman gets emotional. Isabel is not a hysterical woman, I said, my voice dangerously quiet. She's a strategist. You taught her that. She presented me with a business proposition. I declined the terms. This is the result. A long silence. Then his voice dropped, losing the bluster and gaining a chilling edge. You have property in that apartment that belongs to her. Things of significant value. Don't think for a second we won't get them back. I almost smiled. Anything you believe is wrongfully in my possession can be addressed through the appropriate legal channels. Send me a list. I'll have my lawyer review it. I don't have a lawyer. But he didn't need to know that. I hung up before he could respond. The war wasn't over. They had just lost the opening skirmish. I knew them. They wouldn't retreat. They would regroup, re-strategize, and launch a full-scale assault. And I would be ready. After all, I was upgrading. Update. The quiet didn't last long. I'd underestimated their operational tempo. I thought I'd get a week, maybe 2, of blessed radio silence. Instead, I got Julian. Julian, Isabel's brother, is Emily's blunt instrument. Where his parents use condescension and manipulation, Julian prefers a more direct approach. He showed up at my new temporary office space on Wednesday. He'd apparently told the front desk he was a courier with a time-sensitive document for me that required a direct signature, a simple, effective lie that a busy receptionist wouldn't question. He didn't storm in. He ambled. He leaned against the doorframe of my little glass office, arms crossed, looking less like a concerned brother and more like a debt collector with a thesaurus. Leo, he said, nodding slowly. You're a hard man to find. That's the idea, I replied, not looking up from my laptop. Cute. Listen, Izzy is a mess. You did a real number on her. I stopped typing. I did? All I did was follow her instructions. She set the terms. Upgrade or get out. I got out. End of story. He smirked, a nasty little curl of his lip. You think you're clever, don't you? Taking the text literally. We see what you're doing, trying to play the victim. Julian, I'm not playing anything. I'm just living my life. Separately. He pushed off the doorframe and took a step inside. Before he could speak again, I picked up my phone from the desk, swiped to the voice memo app, and hit record. I left the phone face up between us, the red recording bar clearly visible. Where I live, as long as the recording device is in plain sight, it's considered open knowledge. No hiding, no secrets, just documentation. His eyes flickered to the phone, and he hesitated for a fraction of a second. Here's the thing. He continued, his voice a little tighter. You've got her engagement ring. That ring has been in our family for 3 generations. Mom is displeased. She wants it back today. Ah, the ring. The ring was a gift conditional upon marriage, I said calmly. The condition is no longer being met. Don't quote law at me, you little pencil pusher. That ring is worth more than your car. We can make this very, very unpleasant for you. Are you threatening me? I asked, my voice still level, my eyes on my phone. I'm advising you, he said, his eyes narrowing. Give back the ring, give Isabel her half of the furniture, and apologize, publicly, for humiliating her. Do that, and maybe we can make the rest of the disentanglement go smoothly. So that was their play. Not just retrieval of assets, but a full-blown PR campaign to paint me as the villain. They weren't just strategists, they were revisionist historians. No, I said simply. His face flushed. No? The ring is being stored in a secure location, pending a final settlement of all shared assets and liabilities. As for the furniture, she is welcome to her half. She just needs to pay the moving costs, and I will not be apologizing for being dumped via text message. Julian stared at me, then at my phone, his brain seemingly unable to process the lack of emotional reaction. He finally scoffed, shook his head, and walked out, muttering something about me being a sociopath. That evening, I got an email from the landlord of my old apartment. Isabel had filed a complaint, claiming I had illegally locked her out and was withholding property, including irreplaceable heirlooms and professional equipment. The phrase irreplaceable heirlooms sent a jolt of ice through my veins. A cold dread began to set in. I drove to my storage unit. My grandfather's desk sat under a heavy blanket. My hands were trembling slightly for the first time in a week. He'd shown me the secret compartment as a kid. Isabel had been fascinated by it when I'd shown her one evening. With a sickening lurch in my stomach, I found the hidden switch and opened the small drawer. Empty. My grandfather's watch was gone. The cold, hard truth crashed down on me. The theft hadn't just happened, it had been planned. Before the movers arrived, before I had even packed the first box, she must have gone to the desk in our apartment and taken it. She had performed a quiet, calculated theft of the one thing she knew was my true, irreplaceable heirloom. For a moment, sitting on the cold concrete floor of that storage unit, the calm facade cracked. The anger, hot and raw, finally flooded in. They had mistaken my calm for weakness. They had mistaken my methodical approach for a lack of passion. They were wrong. They wanted a war? Fine. They were about to get one. But I wasn't going to fight it on their terms, with shouting and intimidation. I was going to fight it with receipts, documentation, and the slow, grinding, beautiful machinery of the system they thought they could manipulate. They thought I was a broke man. They were about to find out just how costly I could be. Final update. A month can feel like a lifetime. The initial shock had settled into a cold, hard resolve. The theft of my grandfather's watch was the turning point. My upgrade wasn't just about leaving Isabel, it was about reclaiming my own value. My counteroffensive had 3 fronts: legal, bureaucratic, and social. The legal front, I didn't hire a lawyer. I hired a paralegal to help me prepare a small claims court filing. It was cheaper, and for this, just as effective. The suit was for the cost of the stolen watch, the camera, the laptop, and Isabel's share of the final month's rent and utilities for the apartment she had abandoned. The total came to just under the small claims limit. Filing it felt like launching a targeted drone strike. It was impersonal, precise, and guaranteed to hit their doorstep with an official summons. The bureaucratic front. I responded to the landlord's notice with my mountain of evidence. I included the receipts for the professional equipment and a sworn affidavit about the watch, stating it was taken from our shared residence prior to my move. The landlord, faced with a potential legal mess, did exactly what a risk-averse property manager would do. He punted. He sent Isabel a formal notice that, as she was not on the lease, any property claims were a civil matter between us, and that she was not permitted on the property. Her attempt to use him as a cudgel had failed. Checkmate. The social front. This was the most delicate and ultimately the most devastating front. I didn't badmouth anyone. I didn't post passive-aggressive rants. I just told the truth, calmly and without embellishment, when asked. Our mutual friends would text, "Hey, heard the wedding's off. What happened?" My reply was always the same. "Yeah, it's a shame." Isabel sent me a text explaining she couldn't marry a man who wasn't financially upgraded. I took her advice and decided to upgrade my life by starting over. It was for the best. The sheer, unvarnished honesty of it was more potent than any smear campaign. There was no defense against it, because it was their own words and actions. The story started to spread. The narrative they were trying to build, of poor, heartbroken Isabel and her cruel sociopathic ex, crumbled because the foundation was a lie. The reaction to the court summons was immediate and volcanic. Marcus called me, apoplectic. "A lawsuit? Are you kidding me? You're suing my daughter?" "I'm reclaiming stolen property, Marcus," I said, picturing him pacing his mahogany-paneled study. "It's a simple business transaction. You of all people should understand that. We will bury you in legal fees. We will countersue for defamation, for emotional distress." "Go for it," I said, and for the first time I allowed a hint of humor into my voice. "The discovery process will be fascinating. I've kept all the texts. Have you?" The line went dead. The court date arrived. I dressed in a simple suit. I had a single, organized folder with my evidence. They arrived as a phalanx. Marcus, Eleanor, Isabel, and Julian. They looked like they were heading to a hostile board meeting. Isabel wouldn't look at me, her face a mask of practiced victimhood. When it was my turn, I presented my case simply. Here is the lease. Here are the bills. Here are the receipts for the laptop and camera in my name. Here is a photo of me wearing my grandfather's watch at a family event last year. And here is the text message that started it all. I read it aloud to the judge, a tired-looking woman who had clearly seen it all. I'm not marrying a broke man. Either upgrade or I'm gone. When it was their turn, Marcus took over, arguing that the items were gifts, that the text was a moment of emotional hyperbole, and that I was a vindictive ex trying to extort them. The judge looked over her glasses at Isabel. Miss Vaughn, did you take the watch from the desk? Isabel's eyes flickered toward her mother. It was a gift. He told me I could have it. Is that true, sir? The judge asked me. No, Your Honor. It was my grandfather's. It was priceless to me. The judge sighed. She looked at the receipts, at the text message. She didn't need a detective. The story was written in their own entitlement. She ruled in my favor on all counts. They were ordered to return the equipment and pay me the assessed value of the watch, plus the outstanding rent. Their defeat was absolute, and it was public. In the sterile, unflattering light of a courtroom, their maneuvering looked exactly like what it was, a cheap, petty shakedown. Julian had to physically restrain Marcus from yelling at the judge. I walked out without a word. A week later, a courier delivered a box to my office. Inside was the camera, the laptop, and a check for the watch and the rent. There was no note. I sold the ring a few days later and used the money as a down payment on a small condo in a different part of the city. A real upgrade. The last I heard, Isabel had moved back in with her parents. Her budding career as a consultant fizzled out without my financial backing for her essentials. Her reputation among our old friends was shot. People don't like users, especially when they're so blatant about it. I got one final text from her, months later, around 2 a.m. It wasn't angry or sad, it was chillingly strategic, a final attempt to reframe reality. Heard you bought a condo, guess my little push worked after all. You should thank me. I read it, and for the first time I felt a flicker of something that wasn't anger or pain. It was pity. They would never get it. They would forever be the heroes of their own story, the architects of my success, the victims of my unreasonable refusal to play my assigned role. They had learned nothing. I deleted the text without replying. I had a new life to build, a portfolio of my own to manage, and the first and only item in it was my own peace of mind. My stock was soaring.